Hi everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today is the 7th of June 2024. Our weekly lesson has been looking at free entry to institutions such as museums and art galleries. And this is something which Britain is very proud of, allowing everyone free access to its places. The affirmation for today is I will go over or I will revise the English I've learned this week. You might find that helpful just to spend 5 minutes going over what you learned yesterday. Now, for those of you who know me, I'm one of these people that needs inspiration. I don't really do books very well. So if you hand me a book of vocabulary, it doesn't really inspire me to learn. But if you talk with me and give me some new words and connect with me on subjects that I like, then learning for me is very, very easy. So revising what we've learned for people like me is actually not a problem because I'll remember it if I found it enjoyable. But yet, looking at a book with cold, dry words doesn't really do anything for me. And that's why I'm always telling you that English has to come from a place where you're actually interested. There's no point in just trying to hope that words will somehow jump off the page and into your life. Maybe when we were teenagers, that kind of thing happened because we didn't really care. We were just told to do things and we did. But these days, life is a bit different and our minds are so full of many other things. Today is the last of our weekly lesson series for free entry to museums. As you know, we're going to be doing these lessons during the week. And at the weekend, there'll either be some other podcasts or we'll restart them on Monday. And next week's weekly lesson is all about the rights of women. Now, the rights of women is very interesting. They are very interesting because women in the 19th century were fighting very hard to get women the right to vote. So that's what we're going to be looking at next week. But just finishing off on our weekly lesson about free entry to museums and these things, we're just going to go over the final paragraphs here in our weekly lesson. Now, there's 6 paragraphs, so we're going to go through number 5 and number 6 together because these are the final ones. So, today in British society, the letter of the law sits perniciously, with people being quick to judge, imprisoned for wrongdoings, ensuring an upright society based on basic moral rules of right and wrong, good and bad. And then it goes on to talk about this idea of the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. And then in paragraph 6 it says, the balance between preserving history and appreciating art can be seen clearly in the decision to make museums and art galleries free. Now, just to clarify, in my weekly lesson, I'm talking about the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. Yeah, Britain is a very legalistic kind of place. It's all about the rules and you have to obey them. And if you don't obey them, you get into trouble. That's the letter of the law. The law says that, well, you have to do something, and yes, it will be done. But in countries outside of the UK, it's not about the letter of the law, It's more about the spirit of the law and how that can work equally well. And I just want to give you a couple of examples of that. So, for example, here in the UK, it's very simple. If your car goes through a red light, then you get a letter in the post a week later that says you went through a red light or you were caught speeding, for example. And then either the police come to visit you or you're automatically penalized. Going through a red light, actually, is very, very serious. And I think probably you get a police visit if you do that. But if you're just speeding, you get an automatic penalty. And that automatic penalty you have to pay. And if you don't, then again, you get a police visit and they'll be asking you for the money and they'll keep pushing you until you pay up. Now, I don't drive, so I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I can tell you that the law is rather unforgiving. The law is there. You break it, you get punished. That's the letter of the law. However, on the Mediterranean, for example, the red light is there and people think, well, I should obey that red light. It's the law, but I don't have time today because I have to go and see my family. Nobody cares, and as long as nobody is hurt, passing through a red light is kind of okay as long as you don't harm anyone, even though the letter of the law says that you shouldn't do it. So you can hear there, the spirit of the law is saying, well, I know the law is there, and I know I have to obey it, but I can't today. And that's perfectly fine. However, here in the UK, we don't have that option. The letter of the law is black and white. And that comes from years of Puritan governments, very black and white thinking, which can sometimes seem to be rather unforgiving. Now, when we talk about museums and art galleries, what you might be interested in, what you might like to know is that art, particularly creativity, has a way of bypassing the letter of the law. And it kind of overshadows the spirit of the law too. It speaks to us in a way that words can't. And it does this because, of course, art and creativity speak to us in a much higher way. I was very interested a few days ago when I was talking to, I think it was a young Russian man, and he was pointing out that he was a dancer, and he was saying that how in dance moves you can communicate in a way which goes far beyond words. And of course, that's very, very true. In a society like Britain, words are everything. And we haven't really captured this idea of communicating in other ways. We are a little bit stiff. Now, speaking of things which are free and not free, there's a couple of stories I want to tell you about from the UK today. One has the headline that there's a record 2.1 million pupils in England receiving free school meals. And just to clarify, if you're not working or if your family are receiving benefits of some kind from the government, your kids automatically receive free dinners at school. They don't have to pay for them. We're going to read this story. It says, a record number of state school pupils in England are receiving free school meals, say official figures that also reveal soaring numbers attending special needs schools and rising teaching vacancies. The figures showing that more than 2 million pupils qualified for free lunches, an increase of 75,000 in a year, were described as chilling by the General Secretary of the National Educational Union. He says, today a quarter of pupils take free school meals. That is 2.1 million children. In 2015, it was 1 in 7. And he goes on to say, an incoming government must address child poverty by immediately scrapping the 2-child limit and ensuring every child has a free school meal. So again, we're back to blaming the government and saying the government has to fix this. It goes on to say, Department for Education, this is the government department, and you'll notice there's no article there because it is a name. Department for Education data shows that 24.6% of state school pupils are now eligible for free school meals, and that's up from 23.8% last year. Children are eligible if the parents or carers receive benefits and their household after-tax income is under 7,400. Oh, very interesting, very interesting. And on the same page, and these stories are from the Guardian newspaper, it's also saying that schools are coming together, they're banding together. That just means joining for a purpose. It says here schools are banding together in order to ban smartphones. A group of secondary schools have said they are to ban smartphones over concerns about their impact on pupils' learning and well-being. School leaders at 17 state secondary schools in London said the collective action also aimed to address the downsides of smartphone use outside the school gates. It says here, Mike Baxter, head teacher of City of London Academy, said that we were prompted to collaborate after seeing firsthand the negative impact of smartphones and social media on our children's well-being and education. Oh, interesting. 17 out of 20 secondary schools in an area of London have signed up to the ban, and the schools will also help families understand the well-documented risks. This includes impact on mental health, sleep, attention, internet addiction, inappropriate content, and an increased risk of theft. Well, that's 2 stories from our newspaper, The Guardian, for today. So on one hand, we're saying, yeah, kids should be having more free stuff in school, but they shouldn't be having smartphones. Again, in both of these articles, we're being told that, yeah, the government has to do something, or the government hasn't done something, so the school has to do it. And again, it's kind of trying to point to failings with our government. So I don't know about those stories, but both of them are certainly headline news today in our newspaper, The Guardian. Well, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed the lessons of this week. Looking at our main weekly lesson, which of course has been about free entry. We've spoken about whether when you get something for free, you really appreciate it. And we've also looked at what has been motivating you, what motivates you. And just to remind you that the affirmation for today, if you didn't catch it earlier, is just saying, I will review my English of this week. And in our weekly lesson, there's a few questions there for you to ponder. One says, if you had more disposable income, what causes would you support? Do you think supporting charitable causes is morally right? And in the UK, we have a proverb that says, charity begins at home, which simply means you look after yourself first. And if you have spare cash, then of course you can give it to other people, but only after you've looked after yourself. That's it from me. So I'll be back next week. There will still be podcasts and video clips, but the weekly lesson will return on Sunday evening with our clips coming back on Monday. See you. Bye.